demo, let's get a folder structure set up. Go here inside my terminal, go to my Dojo folder. Well, you can't see that probably. I'll go stacks, mean, lectures. All right, and then we'll make a directory for our project. So we'll say Restful tasks API, and then we'll code it. Restful tasks API. Code? Oh yeah. There we go. Any day now. Okay, cool. So I got this directory set up for my project. We're going to go through all the basic steps, right? We're going to npm init -y. Cool. I'm going to install my dependencies, and these have gotten fairly standard recently, right? So we're going to do express, mongoose, and then what else do we want? Not this time. So what's happening here is that with this project, we're not actually going to be rendering pages that a user can use. We're simply creating an API. All right? You guys remember what API stands for? Yeah, boom. So all we're doing is we're just going to be creating a way in which we can interact with our data. That's it. We don't need to actually show the users anything. We're just going to end up sending back some JSON. What is JSON again? Yes, exactly. All right, JavaScript object notation. Cool. So we do need these two regulars though, Express and Mongoose. Let's install these guys.
Does that mean we're going to be using Postman again? Or?
Yes, we will.
Cool.
Yeah, I was going to be introducing that to you guys today. So we got these guys installed. Let's go ahead and create our server file, right? This is kind of the standard process. I need to require Express. Whoops. Express. Okay, and then I need to create my app, right? By invoking Express. Let's listen down here on some port. 4500 again. All right. Now, typically up in here, we need to app.use and do express.url encoded, right? Does everyone remember why we're doing that? Why we were doing that? Ryan, I'm going to call on you since we've been hammering this so much.
Just it breaks down and allows us to do those. That's all we're going to do this time.
What's it giving us access to? When we do app.use and then inside the parentheses express.url encoded.
It allows us to get anything in our like in our views file, like in our form data, I would assume. But
there you go, form data. All right, stop right there. You hit the right answer. All right, so yeah, it allows us to read our form data. However, now what we're trying to read is we're trying to read JSON data. Okay. So if I submit some kind of request, we're going to be sending it back to our server in a JSON format, not through a regular form submission. Okay. So how do we want to do this? We still want to do app.use, except instead of express.url encoded, let's say express.json. Okay. So this will make it so that our subsequent handlers will have access to the body of the request, and it will be as JSON data. So that'll be nice. Okay, excellent. So we're pretty good there. We know that we don't need to do anything with static files because, again, this is just an API. All we're doing is we're serving up information, right? All right, cool. So what's the other thing I usually have to require inside here? If we're going with our kind of modularization approach. I know I'm going to want to connect to my database, right? So how am I going to do that? So I'm going to require this mongoose file. And where is that usually going to be? So if we go back in our directory structure here, let's create a folder for our server files. And then again within that, we're going to have a config folder. What are the other two that I want?
Controller.
You guys are just going to wait until I type them out, huh? Alright, I see you working. Alright, so inside our config folder, we want to have this mongoose file, right? Mongoose.js. What am I going to do inside here? I'm going to require the actual mongoose, which is in my node modules folder. Alright, and then what else do I need to do?
Connect to the database.
I got to connect to the database, yeah, exactly. So we'll say mongoose.connect, and then we'll pass in that connection string, right? MongoDB, localhost, and then what is everyone okay? What's the name of our database? Let's say Restful tasks demo, or I'll call it API demo. I feel like I may have that database already in my Mongo, so I'm trying to make these unique here. So what's the other thing that I want to pass to this connect function? My options argument, right? So this is where we can get rid of all those deprecation warnings. All right, so use new URL parser, true. Unified topology. One of these days I got to look into what that actually means. I read up on it one time, but it was like, it just did not make good sense for some reason. Yeah. Use, find, and modify. False, I believe, right? Cool. All right, so this is where we're establishing our MongoDB connection. What else do I need to do in this file?
Make your schema.
Not in this file, but you're kind of on the right track. You got to require our models, right? And then inside the model, each model, that's where we'll create our schema. Cool. All right, so I'm going to say require, and then I have to go up one level because right now I'm inside this config folder, up one level into my models folder, and then whatever we're going to call this model. So I believe we're just going to call it a task model because our API is just serving up tasks. That's it. Okay. So if I go in here, let's just run this guy so that make sure nothing is broken yet. We're okay because I haven't yet saved my server file here, but I'm going to want to require inside my server directory, we're going to go into the config folder and then grab that mongoose file, right? Okay. So what happens right now, if I save this, if I save my server file, am I going to have an issue?
Yes,
Yeah, why?
because the model doesn't exist.
Yeah, because over here, once I require this mongoose file, it's then going to try to require this file, which is not yet there, right? All right. So I won't save it yet. Let's create this model first. So we'll go inside our models folder here and just create task.js. Okay. And what am I going to want to import here or require? I should say. Mongoose every time, right? Mongoose is our old friend. Mongoose. Okay. Now I want to create my schema. So how do I do that? We'll give it some name, right? We'll say task schema equals, what is that? What do I set this to? Close. Schema. All right. Let's check what we have in our task schema. So basically, we're going to have these different things: an ID, which we don't even need to worry about, a title, and a description, and a completed. And then the timestamps, again, we don't have to worry about because it's going to Mongoose will take care of that for us. All right. So let's say we have this title, type, dang it, get out of there. All right. Type is string, required, true, whoops. Again, I'm going to do it like this so that we can get some customized messages in there, right? Please enter a title. All right. I'm going to do the same thing with description. In fact, I'm feeling extra lazy, so let's duplicate this. All right. Description. Oh, let me show you guys one other neat thing. Does anyone know about this, where you can sort of highlight multiple occurrences of something? Yeah, so either Control D if you're on Windows or Command D if you're on Mac. And I could just change them in one shot. Yeah, that's cool. All right. So then we have one other field in here, which is just the completed field. So is this task done yet? And then we'll say type is Boolean on this guy. Required. You know what? We won't say required. Let's just say the default on this guy is false, right? So by default, if we enter in a new task, it hasn't been completed. All right, now I want to add in my timestamps down here as my in this options argument. True. Good deal. Am I done here in this file? Almost. What else do I have to do? Yeah, I have to actually register the model with Mongoose, right? So how do I do that? Mongoose.model. We're going to invoke this function. And this first argument, again, is going to be the name of the model. So we'll call it task. We're getting extra creative. And then we need to pass in that schema that we just created, right? Task schema. All right, very good. So now if I require this Mongoose file, I should be okay, right? The app won't break. Let's try it. Not breaking yet. All right, fair enough. Cool. The other thing that I'm going to want to have here are going to be inside this config folder. What else do I want? I know this modularization stuff came on kind of fast, but does anyone remember what else? We want our routes.js, right? All right, so inside here, let's just create routes.js. Okay, and then let's take a quick look here at the specifications. So we're going to have these different types of requests. We want to be able to get all tasks, get a task by ID, create one, update one by ID, and delete one by ID. Okay, so you've got all these different routes. This is going to be buckets of fun. All right. Now inside my routes, what am I going to export? Let's just think about what are we going to export from this file. Does anybody remember? Function. Nice. So we'll say module.exports equals a function that takes in an application. And then inside here, this is where we're going to apply all of our routes, right? Okay, so let's do that. So we'll say something like app.get. So, and I'm gonna prepend my routes actually with the prefix API. We'll kind of understand a little bit more why I'm doing this later on, but just for now, each one of these routes is going to start with API. All right. API. So if I make a GET request to just this route right here, all I want to do is get back all of my tasks, right? Actually, let me say tasks. Okay, so it's going to be /API and then /tasks. Okay, and I'm going to apply some other routes here too. So if we do a post request to that same route, what are we trying to do at that point? Yeah, so this is where we want to create a new task, exactly. All right, if I do a app.get request to API/tasks/some ID, what am I trying to do there?
Show the task.
I'm trying to just get that specific task, yeah, exactly, and give that back to our front end. All right. Now I would also have a put request to a specific task. What would I be doing with this one? This is where we're going to be updating a single task. All right.
What's put?
Put means we're going to update a resource. Okay. Now keep in mind that you can't make put requests through regular forms. We can do it through JavaScript though. Okay. All right. Now, finally, we're going to have a delete request for whenever we want to delete a specific task. Okay. So we'll go again API/tasks/ID. All right, excellent. So I've got these routes here. I'm not yet requiring this, but I need to put some handler functions in here, right? So right now, I haven't yet created any of those handler functions. So let's get there. Let's get those done so that we can actually require this without breaking things. Okay, what else do I need here to make my functions?
Controllers.
I've got to create my tasks controller. So that's not there yet. So let's say tasks.js. And what is our tasks controller going to need? It's this thing that we keep requiring over and over, right? Yeah, right? Because I need to get a reference back to my task model. All right, so let's require it. Mongoose. And then to get a reference to the model, I can say const task equals mongoose.model task. Okay? Remind me why I'm only passing one argument here to the model function.
Because it's a more returns to do.
I like the way you think.
Because it already exists, so you just refer to it.
That's right, yeah, because by the time we actually have required this file, we've already registered this model with Mongoose, so it knows about it. We're just trying to get back a reference to it so that we can use it. All right.
So say that if it didn't exist, you forgot the other line, and you did it here, would it just create it?
No. No, it won't register it unless you pass in the second argument, the schema.
Okay.
Yeah. So in fact, here, if we hadn't done that and we tried to grab a reference to it, it would most likely give us an error and say that model has not been registered. Cool. So the other thing that we want to do now that we have a reference to this task model here is we want to create all of our handler functions, right? Do you guys remember what structure we're going to be exporting from here? So if I say module.exports, what were we going to export from this file?
Object.
Just be an object that has all these key value pairs for the different functions we want. Okay, so one function that I'm going to want to have is going to be my index function, right? And again, that'll take in a request and response. We don't really need to know anything about this request because all we're going to do is just go retrieve all of our tasks, right? Okay, so I'll say task.find. And then what's this going to return, everyone? Promise. Yes. So how do I do something with that promise? Then. Okay. And theoretically, what I should get back is what? Just an array of tasks. Exactly. So we can create a little callback function which takes all those tasks, and I'm just going to send back those tasks. So we'll say res.json. You guys haven't seen this yet because previously we were doing res.render, right? When we do res.json, that means that the response that we're going to send back is just going to be, it's going to be JSON. That's it. All right. So inside here, I'll just create a little object, and then I'm going to have a key of tasks, which will have all of my tasks in it. All right. Maybe I'd want to do some error handling if I got an error. So if we get an error, we might want to say res.json error. Okay, hopefully we won't. All right, so we're good to go. So now at least I can connect this to my routes, and we'll be able to, we should theoretically be able to make a request and just see, okay, here are all my tasks. There's going to be nothing, right? It should be an empty array. But we'll get it working. So here inside of our routes, I'm just going to comment out all of these guys because we're just trying to get all of our tasks for now. And then what do I need to bring into my routes file? My controller. So that way I'll have all of these callback functions that I want, right? So we'll say const tasks controller equals require, and then we're going to go up one level into our controllers folder, and then we'll go to get our tasks, and then here, Anna, what shall I put in line 4? Task controller, okay, cool. What else? So remember, when we require task controller, what are we getting back? Let's look at it real quick. So our task controller is exporting what? Okay. Yeah, I mean the index function is inside here, but what are we exporting as a whole? No. A little help here, Michael.
Just that function that you're doing right there, index.
Well, we're exporting more than a function, right?
The object?
It's an object. It's an object that has this function inside of it. Okay.
The task is not there. Or the error messages.
Well, it's really just our whole controller object, right? And then inside that object, we have these individual handlers. Okay. All right, so back here inside routes, as Anna was saying, I'm going to have tasks controller, and then what else? So here for my index route, is that it? Am I going to pass in the entire object that we just required? No. What else do I need to say here? Dot.
And whatever you called it.
Index. All right, fair enough. So now all we need to do, we've got the routes and we've got our controller here. All I need to do is require our routes file from server.js, right? And then at least this specific route should work. Okay, so let's go into our server.js, and what's this going to look like? Brian.
Require.
Okay.
Require server big, and then the routes. You have to pass in the app.
Yeah, exactly. So let's recall real quickly what this is going to return me is going to be the function that I exported. Okay. And then I can immediately invoke this function against my app, right? So let's do that. There we go. Let's go in here, make sure that we don't have any errors, so we're good to go. All right, great. Now comes the fun part. Now we get to introduce this tool that we can use to basically test our APIs and make sure that everything's working the way that we expect it is, right? That tool is called Postman. So I have it inside the mean sheet here, I believe. Let me make sure it's here. Download Postman, it's down here. So it's actually under Monday of next week. So you guys can download this application Postman, which will allow us to just make these requests back to our server without even using the browser at all. Okay? And we'll see what that looks like. I'll pull it up for you here. This is the interface that you guys will be using. And you can create collections over here on the left side. So if I want to have sort of collections of different requests that I'm making to my application, you can create those. All right. We're just going to kind of do it on the fly here, where we just send individual requests. But you can create your own collection so that you don't have to like keep rewriting this stuff. It's almost like creating a function. Yeah. Long story on it. but I'm not into online gaming or anything, so no, for real. Okay, so
Late at night.
yeah, right, sure. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make a GET request to our main route, right? To see if we can get back all of our tasks. So I'm gonna say localhost 4500. We'll go /API/tasks, and let's send this. Okay, so notice that I've gotten this JSON response here. It's just tasks, and it's an empty array. Cool. All right, any questions about that part?
How do you link Postman to the
To that port?
to
You
the
mean?
port? Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even have to. All we have to do is just put it up in here. I wish I could make it bigger, but I don't think that I can. Oh wait, I can make it a little bigger. Never mind. Excellent. All right, can you guys see that? Okay. All right, great. So we made a GET request to just grab all of our tasks. The next step that I think probably makes the most sense is why don't we actually set it up so that we can create a task, right? That way, the next time we send a GET request, there'll be something in there. All right, so let's go back to our tasks controller. We also want to have a create function. So come down here, res. Okay, now I'm going to say task.create, and then what am I going to pass into this function here? Rec.body. This returns what? Promise. All right, so let's do something with it. Contract. All right, so we're going to get back this task that we just created, right? Once the promise successfully resolves. So let's simply send that back using res.json, right? And we'll say task inside this object. So our catch function will probably look about the same as this. I'll just grab this. All right. Good deal. So I've got this create function. I need to add it back to my routes though because I commented out some of this stuff, right? So come up in here for my app.post. Let's go over here. What am I going to type in here? Ivan. Dot what? Yes, exactly. So we're going to say tasks controller dot create, right? Dot create. Excellent. All right, so we're ready to go. So let's go back to Postman here and see if we can create a task. So I'm going to change this to a post request. Okay. Now the fun part, we actually need to send something along with our request because when we were just making a GET request, there was no data that we were sending to the server, right? Server was the one getting the data for us. All right. Now I need to do something with my request body, and this may be kind of hard to see, but you're going to click on body up in here, and then you need to change this to raw, okay? So this right here, notice that we've got x-www-form-URL encoded. If we were to select this, that means we would need to be using URL encoded in our server.js, right? But we're not. We're just dealing with JSON right now. Okay, so let's go to raw. And then you'll see it says text by default. A lot of people get tripped up on this. You have to pull that down to JSON. Okay, and notice that here we've got this beautify thing. I guess it's going to make it look pretty nice for us, right? It should be beautiful. So we're going to create an object inside here, and then I want to have the key value pairs for the task that I'm creating. Okay, so I need to have a title, right? So my title is going to be get black belt. Description next Friday. Okay, we'll just leave completed off because we know that we set a default, right? It's going to be false by default. Cool. So let's send this guy through. So notice down here, I now have my task that I just created. So I've got task object, and inside we've got completed false because that was my default value, right? I've got my title, get black belt, description next Friday, and then I've got my timestamps, which is nice. Any questions about this part? Creating a new task. You guys following that pretty well?
I have a question about the function.
All right.
You did res.json. It's like
Right here.
how does that work? So it's not like a redirect or a render or.
Oh, I meant to have this indented a little bit. Yeah, exactly. So it's not rendering in the sense that we're getting an HTML file returned back to whoever's making the request. We're actually just getting some JSON. So I can still look at this stuff in the browser, like if I wanted to see, I'll just go to /API/tasks. I'm using kind of I have an extension installed for Chrome that sort of formats your JSON this way. But otherwise, it would have just looked like a JSON string. That's all.
So it's just returning it to the same page that it came from?
Yeah, exactly. Returning it back.
Why is completed first before ID?
It looks to me, yeah, I was going to say it was in some specific order, but
Maybe it's because it's a blue.
yeah, that could be.
It's the dark web.
So just keep in mind when we're dealing with objects in JavaScript, there's no inherent sense of order. Okay? I mean, these things could come in whatever order, it doesn't really matter, but I can still retrieve them by key name. Okay? All right. Bring it up on Mattermost.
Yeah, I was going to say it matters.
Would that count as a refresh? The JSON, the res.json? Is it the same thing as it?
Would it count as a refresh? I'm not sure I follow the question. What do you mean?
Like, is it redirecting?
No, there's no redirect happening here, right? Because I didn't say res.redirect.
Is it
So all I did, I'm ending the entire request response cycle right here where I say res.json. Done. That's it. Okay. And in fact, if you guys were to do something like a .finally in here, and then you did another res.json, you're going to get some kind of warning where it'll say, we've already sent a response, and you can't send another one. Something like that. Okay? All right. Cool. So we've created a task. Now what else do we want to be able to do? We also want to be able to get a task by ID, right? That was another thing. Okay. So let's call, whoops. Why is my formatting all messed up here? That should be like that, right?
I think that one was fine.
There, that's better. All right, cool. So let's create our find by ID. ID, rec res. All right, so here I'm going to use this function that we have, which is find by ID. Mongoose gives us this. All right. So I can say task.find by ID. Okay. Yeah, so where are we getting our ID? The params, so that's going to look like what? .id. Yeah, so rec.params is an object and it has all the key value pairs from our route. Okay. So we'll find it by ID, and then this will return a promise, of course. So when it resolves, I'm going to get back that specific task that I'm interested in, right?
Can we name it something like retrieve or detail?
You mean here on line 17?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can name it something different.
I was wondering if that's a name or if it's related to the.
Here, let's change it, yeah, because that could be a little confusing since I named it the exact same thing as that. All right, yeah, I agree with you there. Let's just say get by ID. All right. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is the same sort of thing. So I'm just going to say res.json, and then inside this little object, I'll put that individual task that we just got back. And then I'm going to grab this guy again, duplicate it, bring it down. Uh-oh. That's why I'm losing my my indentation, I think.
Now you're over.
Yep. Yeah, I hate how it does that. All right. Maybe I should start using Vim. All right, cool. So we've got this get by ID function. I just need to plug it into my routes, and then I'll be good to go, right? So let's go into our routes file here. I'll uncomment this guy. And then what am I going to type in here? Keanu.
That's a good question.
And I'll bet you have a better answer. Well, let's just look at the pattern here. I know you're kind of like it seems a little fuzzy here, but what are we doing in these other two handlers? The tasks controller is just an object that has some different functions inside of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we just made a function to be able to handle finding a task by ID.
Yeah. So task controllers.
Tasks controller, all right. And then the name of the function that I just created was this. It's get by ID. Yeah, exactly. All right. Cool.
I mean,
What?
ask some questions later.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to get you in the mix, you know, because it's like you got to get involved in order to kind of understand a little bit more, and that's cool. All right. So we're good here. So let's go back to our Postman. And here I've got this ID, right, of the one task that I've inserted. Well, actually, let's insert one more task just so we have a couple things to work with. What other tasks do you want? Eat breakfast? It's the most important meal of the day. Yeah. Because a lot of people forget to do this. Yeah. All right, here we go. Cool, we've got our new task, so now we have two tasks, right? All right, so I'll make one more GET request here to my API/tasks. And this is cool. I've got two different tasks, okay? Let's say I want to get just my eat breakfast task. What I need to do is grab the ID down here. Then I'm going to put this up in the address bar because that's the one that I'm trying to find, right? Okay. Now we're getting it by ID. Excellent. Cool. So we're almost there. We only have a couple more routes to handle, which is that we need to be able to modify a task by ID, and we also need to be able to delete by ID, right? Let's do delete by ID because that's probably going to be quite simple. Yeah, so let's go in here, tasks. I'll just go delete rec_res. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to use this Mongoose function that we have. It's find by ID and delete. Yeah, great, right? So where am I getting the ID again? from my rec.params object. So I'll say rec.params.id. And then again, this is going to return a promise, right? If it resolves, that means that I successfully deleted that task from my database. Now, it could potentially fail if, say, I've already deleted that task, or maybe the ID that I fed it was bad, something like that. So let's say .then. If it resolves, I think it returns nothing, if I remember correctly. Does anybody know?
Doesn't it return the message that says, okay, delete it?
I think you're right. Yeah. But basically, all we know is that for sure it is definitely deleted, right? So we're okay to just say status success or something like that.
Return the object that found.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, either way, if it resolves, that just means that we were successful in deleting it. So let's just say I'll put inside an object status success. All right. And you guys can kind of structure this the way that you want. Whatever you want to send back to whatever client is kind of up to you. You just have to know, this is what I'm sending from my backend. Because you might, like, sometimes you want to have some logic to see, was this request successful? All right. If it fails, you know the drill. Now I'll mess up my indentation. Gosh, stop that. All right. And then it messed up this one over here. All right, cool. So let's just delete one of these guys. I guess I'll delete eat breakfast, but I know, it makes me terribly sad. All right, don't worry. I'll remember to eat breakfast. Okay, so let's go delete here. And then I'll just paste in this ID. Send that guy. Uh-oh. What did I forget to do? I forgot to put it in routes, right? Okay. So let's do that. All right. What do I need to type in here? There we go. Yes, it is. It is. Good catch. I think I just made it delete. Yeah, I didn't want to make it find by ID and delete, so all right. So let's try to run that one more time. Okay, so we got our little status success, so that means it's gone, right? And if I go back to make a GET request, just to my /tasks, indeed, now I just have this one left, right? Okay, cool. So the only thing that we need to do is we need to update a task by ID. So we're almost there. So let's go back inside of our tasks controller. And let's say update by ID recres. And then inside there, I'm going to use my old favorite function, find by ID and update. So we'll say task.find by ID and update. Okay, so the first thing I need to pass this again is going to be the ID of the task. So where's that again? .id. Okay. The second thing is going to be the actual update object, which would probably be what? Where am I getting the update object from? Where did we get it from when we were creating a task? Jinja? Oh, I didn't hear that right. Yeah, it is going to be JSON, but where is it coming from, though? Rec.body, right? Okay, fair enough. If I want to get really explicit here, what I could do is I could say my title is title is rec.body dot title, and so forth. Description, rec dot body dot description. I'll show you in a minute why I'm even bothering with this, because it is kind of a hassle, but completed is rec.body.completed. Okay, oops. Okay, and then third argument, as I was showing you guys yesterday, is that we want to pass just some options in here. We want to run our validators, right? So I'll say new true, which means that this is going to give me back the new document, not the old one. So it's going to give me back the modified one. That's good. And then I'm going to say I want to run my validators. What's that again? Okay. All right, so once this is done, so once I've updated my task, this is also returning a promise, right? So we can send back the updated task to our client. So let's say dot then we're going to have our task, and I'm just going to do res.json task. And then this time I'm actually going to copy this line because I don't want that terrible formatting problem. Okay. So that looks pretty good, right? Now I need to not forget to actually do it inside the routes so that we can use this route, right? So I'll come over here, uncomment my put request here, and then here I'll do what? Well,
Task controller dot update.
good. Update by ID. Okay, excellent. So let's try updating one of our tasks. We only have one. So let's grab the ID, right? So I'm going to change this request type to a put request. And then I'm going to add in this ID to the end here. Then inside my body, up here, what do we want to change it to? Yeah, let's do that. So it was get black belt. I know. And then we'll say beast mode. And then completed true. Cool. Looks good, right? Let's send that. Okay, notice how it has changed the way that we wanted. Completed is now true. This changed to beast mode. What if I were to send through, let's say I sent through an empty description. I want that to be validated against, right? So let's try that. Uh-oh. There's our custom message right in there, right? Okay. But let me show you something else that's kind of interesting. If I come in here and inside that method, instead of actually doing all this verbosity here where I said, title is rec.body.title and so forth, what if I just put in rec.body? Let's try it one more time. Oh, because I left it in here, but let me take it out. So in this case, we're not even sending a description at all, right? Okay. Hey, wait a minute, it's still updated. What happened? Does anybody know or understand why that happened? It threw me off like the first couple times I saw it. I'm like, what?
Because it wasn't setting description to anything, so it wasn't running the validator for description.
And yeah, and so that document already had something for a description. So according to Mongoose, it's like that document's already okay. So if I just want to update like a couple fields in it, I'm able to do that. So that would be a way that you can, if you were, let's say you were trying to prevent people from sort of circumventing your validations or whatever, you could potentially do something like this where you made it very verbose. So now if I send through that same description or that same update document that we just did, what's going to happen with, it was description that I left off, yeah. So what's going to happen with this description property? What's the value of that going to be? What's rec.body.description going to be?
Undefined.
Undefined. Yeah, exactly. So it'll be undefined, which will trigger my validations. So there we go. All right.
Does it matter that, like, if you just put rec.body instead of like explicitly listing each field, like, does it matter?
Kind of. I guess it would depend on the situation. How hard-nosed are you trying to be about updates? You know, do you want people to be able to update pieces of a document and not the entire thing?
I mean,
Maybe
in
it
order to
wouldn't matter
create
as
a
much.
document, it has to pass the validation.
Exactly. Yeah, on the create part, there would be no way around that. So that's it. That's the whole RESTful Tasks API. All right, claps all around. All right, so we're going to be using this kind of method when we start getting into Angular. We want to test our backend routes and make sure that they're all working right. Okay, because before you even try to do the front end, it's good to get that back end fully fleshed out and ready to go. Cool. Let's have thumbs.
A lot simpler than Java, I think.
A lot of what?
A lot simpler.
A lot simpler, yeah. I tend to agree with that.
It's kind of reminiscent of like Django.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, I mean, the modularization part,
Right.
where you have like your routes, and then kind of like your URLs to apply,
Right.
and then you have your views, which are your control.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. All right.